You're sitting and gazing out at Flathead Lake as the waves lap serenely at your feet. The amber sun paints pine tree silhouettes against the smoke-smothered sky. You can just tell these are the moments in which anything seems possible. While relaxing to the sound of nature all around, you look out over the water, and as you're surveying the area, your eyes catch a glimpse of what looks like a huge log floating along. As you start to look away, you see it rise up out of the water. Now it looks like 3 large humps undulating in the lake. You doubt what you just saw was real. You talk yourself out of it and just go home. Later on, you see a news report that 3 other people saw the same thing at the same place at nearly the same time. Flathead Lake is, without a doubt, one of Montana's most impressive natural wonders. Each year, Montanans enjoy swimming, boating, tubing, kayaking, and fishing at this adored body of water. But Flathead Lake also harbors a secret. According to some, it has a monster lurking below the surface. Flathead Lake is the largest natural freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. It has over 200 square miles of water and about 185 miles of shoreline. So to say it's a big lake is an understatement. Flathead Lake is located in northwest Montana and is the largest lake in the western United States. It's approximately 28 miles long and 16 miles wide, and 370 feet in depth at its deepest point. 2 rivers flow into the lake, the Flathead River and the Swan River. With 22 different fish species and a wide range of aquatic plants, the lake is big and hospitable enough to hold a very large creature. It's a lake of mythical proportions, and according to several eyewitness accounts, it has a creature with that same magnitude. The story of a monster in Flathead Lake originates in a Kootenai traditional legend. According to the tale, long ago, the first native tribe in the area lived on an island in the middle of the lake. One winter, while crossing the frozen lake to move camp, 2 girls saw antlers approximately 2 feet in length sticking out of the frozen ice. Thinking the antlers belonged to a dead animal, the girls decided to chop them off and take them. They used sharp-edged rocks to cut through the ice. Suddenly, the antlers started shaking. The ice around them split open, and the head of a monster appeared through the ice, shaking its giant antlers, cracking the ice everywhere. As a result, half of the tribe drowned in the lake, which is said to be the reason why there are so few Kootenai people remaining today. But those girls were far from the last to see the monster. Oh no, the lore tells that the Kootenai never strayed far from the lake shore after that, and white settlers later reported seeing the monster themselves. The monster is usually described as a large, eel-shaped creature, round with a wavy body, like a snake. Its length ranges in size from 20 to 40 feet. It's brownish to blue-black with very obvious steel black eyes and undulating hips. Oh, it's that kind of monster. It's often been described as looking like a whale or a giant sturgeon, which is one of the oldest families of bony fish in existence, and often found in lakes and rivers. Although wildlife officials insist there is no evidence of sturgeon in Flathead Lake. Okay, so it's not a sturgeon. One other account described the beast as a giant eel-like creature that was very shiny and had a head shaped like a bowling ball. It's a giant sperm? It's been reported to have many humps coming above the surface of the water, pointing toward the possibility that it's a creature similar to or the same as the Loch Ness Monster. Sounds like it. Locals have named the monster Flessie because of the similarities. Others have identified it as a large-sized fish from 6 to 10 feet in length. On occasion, it's reported to have 5 fins. One witness stated that he was able to see the monster and that it had a sturgeon-like head and an eel-like body. Now that's pretty fucking strange. Regardless of the specifics, observers agree that it is a shy, reclusive, and curious monster that means no harm. Aw, now what a pet it. The first documented sighting of the Flathead Lake Monster was in 1889. James C. Kerr skippered the U.S. Grant, a steamboat with 100 passengers that made its rounds regularly in Flathead Lake. On one trip, Kerr and his passengers saw what looked like a log or another boat approaching in the water. After getting closer, they observed an unusually large, whale-like object was coming toward them in the lake. Frightened, one of the passengers on the steamer pulled out the rifle that he was carrying and took a shot at it. The monster dove down into the dark waters. He did not kill the creature. However, this sighting started the legend of the Flathead Lake Monster. There have been several sightings since. Most have occurred between April and September. I guess it doesn't like the cold? According to Paul Fugelberg, a longtime historian of monster sightings and a former editor of the newspaper The Flathead Courier, contemporary reports of sightings of Flessie by local residents and visitors average between 1 and 2 each year. Fugelberg also stated, "When I was an editor at the Flathead Courier at Polson, author Dorothy M. Johnson, then secretary of the Montana Press Association, advised me not to treat sighting reports lightly in newspaper and magazine articles." She said, "I don't think the monster should be done with tongue-in-cheek. You have eyewitness accounts by people who were genuinely scared and didn't think it was funny at all. Come on, man. Don't be an asshat, okay?" Brian Beck, who owns Flathead Lake Monster Incorporated, had a sighting in the late 1980s. He wrote it off at the time, he said, because it's easy to talk yourself out of such strange things. But a week later, he heard about other people who had sightings at exactly the same spot and time as his. Coincidence? I think not. "It was serpent-like and with waves," Beck revealed. "It It just didn't look like anything I've ever seen on the lake, and I grew up on the lake. I've seen about everything on the lake. Beck admits there's a chance he saw a log or something else, with perfect wind and lighting conditions to give the impression of a living creature. Maybe. It could actually be our monster, he said. You never know. That's what makes the story great. You can't say something doesn't exist just because you haven't seen it. That's funny. I said that in the last video myself. Apparently, one local story involves a 3-year-old boy falling into the lake and suddenly reappearing on the shoreline. When his mother asked him how he'd gotten out, he said that the monster had lifted him up. Aw, Flessie's a nice monster. One of the strangest accounts was that of a researcher who claimed he had sighted the lake monster in 1985, and again 2 years later. This is very unusual because it is very rare to see it even once in a lifetime, let alone twice in 2 years. He must have some kind of a Flessie call. In 1993, Lainey Hansel, Flathead Lakers board member and retired fisheries biologist, and Paul Fugelberg collectively gathered 13 unusual sightings, which was by far the most of any year. The weather and lake conditions were not unusual in 1993. Plus, all of them were remarkably consistent in their descriptions of the creature. That's pretty solid right there. On May 24, 1993, there was a sighting reported of 2 monsters together in Big Arm Bay. One was considerably larger than the other, and they were thought to possibly be mother and child or a male and female couple. On July 13, 1993, off Woods Bay, a bank officer and a district sales manager from Seattle managed to acquire a few seconds of video footage of the monster. The video shows a large, dark shape, about 12 feet long, just below the surface. On July 15, 1993, 2 sightings occurred 25 minutes and 15 miles apart. Either it's very fast or there's 2 of them. On July 17, 1993, 2 sightings were made in the same area, but half a day apart. Jim Manley was an attorney and a country lawyer in the little town of Poulsen, which is on Flathead Lake, for 33 years. Julia Manley, his wife, said, "I'd heard there'd been sightings, but I didn't really pay any attention to it." Jim said, "I think I was a skeptic, although there wasn't really any explanation for some of the sightings, so I didn't know." His skepticism would soon be tested one afternoon out on the lake. Jim said, "After work, we were out there. It was a calm day. There was a light breeze, but no waves. It was a beautiful day, and there were no other boats on the whole bay." Later on, as they were getting ready to leave, Jim tried to start the boat. It wouldn't start. He tried several times. He soon realized the battery was dead. Julia recalls, "It's a hopeless feeling being out in the middle of the water like that." Jim called his daughter, who also owns a boat, to help them. While they were waiting on their daughter to come and rescue them, they laid on the boat, just relaxing. There were no other boats or people out on the lake. So basically, they were all alone out there. Suddenly, they heard a splashing noise close by, except it didn't sound like someone jumping in the water. It sounded more like someone slapping the water over and over, like repeated belly flops. They could tell it was nearby by the volume of the splashing sounds. They started looking around the lake. Then they both froze and just stared and watched. Julia said, "The first feeling I had seeing it was just shock. I knew I was seeing it, but it's so unbelievable to think about it." Jim chimed in. "As we were watching, this thing starts moving, and it was moving super slow, and we could see humps out of the water." Julia said that it was like a serpent. She didn't see a head, just a body. Jim said that what they saw was probably at least twice as long as the boat, which is 24 feet. Jim said, "That's kind of freaky that you have something out there that's twice as long as your boat, swimming below you, especially if your boat won't start." As they were watching it, beyond it, they saw their daughter and her husband coming directly toward them in their boat. Jim started motioning them with his hand to get them to look at the creature as they were approaching. However, they thought he was waving and started waving back. As they got closer to the monster, it slowly slipped down into the water and disappeared. Many people say that they have seen schools of fish jump out of the water in the lake in an apparent attempt to escape a predator right before the monster appears. That sounds a lot like a whale. To date, there have been 109 documented sightings, one as recent as the fall of 2017. Of course, it's easy to dismiss all of these claims, but 109 sightings is pretty extraordinary. Yeah, that's pretty fucking impressive. Reports have been submitted by first-time visitors as well as from lifelong lake residents, from drinkers to non-drinkers. Details of the creature have been described by mothers, doctors, lawyers, biologists, engineers, anglers, businessmen, and policemen. So, not a bunch of kooks. Some folks say that claimed sightings of the monster have been blamed on hyperactive imaginations, playful pranks, and natural phenomena such as wave action, shadows, lighting effects, and logs. Also accused are a number of animals, including bears, horses, deer, elk, dogs, a dead monkey, what? A loose circus seal, and even an escaped buffalo. Oh my God. In the 1950s, the sturgeon theory gained popularity. Sturgeons can grow to more than 10 feet long and have prehistoric characteristics that look monsterish. As a result, a significant cash reward was offered by Big Fish Unlimited to anyone who could catch what was termed as the superfish of Flathead Lake. On May 28, 1955, a man named C. Leslie Griffith was reported to have caught a 7-foot, 6-inch, 181-pound white sturgeon, which is on display at the Polson Flathead Historical Museum. Damn, what kind of fishing line did he have to use? The event was covered all over the press, with many people doubting that the sturgeon that was caught there came from Flathead Lake, mainly due to the fact that no sturgeon have ever been seen or caught in Flathead Lake. Although the controversy was never publicly resolved, a biologist from the University of Montana cut open the fish's stomach and determined the primeval fish was from a separate river system and not from Flathead Lake. Because of the sightings of two creatures at the same time and multiple sightings at different locations within a short time, there are theories that there are two different monsters in the lake. That makes sense. I'm sure there's at least like a breeding couple to keep it going, you know? Roland Watson, who is a long-time researcher of lake monsters, believes that lake monsters could be of the fish kingdom with prehistoric links. The idea that Nessie and other lake monsters have ties to the plesiosaurs is one of the more viable claims that cryptozoologists have. Some theories presume that these lake monsters are swimming elephants. The idea is that elephants are swimming in these lakes, and the snake-like creatures we see are the elephant's trunk used as a snorkel. Others believe that lake monsters are simply large fish. No. So, is it really just a big fish? Or is it a plesiosaur type of species similar to the Loch Ness monster that survived from long ago? It's important to note that everyone has said that the monster isn't scary or mean, it's just big. They all agree it's nothing to be afraid of. The legend of the Flathead Lake monster is as deep and quiet as Flathead Lake itself. The next time you're out kayaking or swimming in Flathead Lake, keep your eyes open. Be extra alert when traveling in the areas around Skidoo Bay, Polson Bay, the Narrows, and along the Western Shore Road. You never know when you might see something that will make you question even yourself.